And so today we are going to be speaking about what really happened in the fairy tales that inspired Disney movies. So I'll do a bit of a recap onto what happened in the Disney movies, and then we'll look at what happened in the original stories or alternate versions. So with that, we'll jump straight in, and with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So in the Disney movie, the evil queen asked the hunter to go and carve out the heart of Snow White, and he couldn't do it. So he found Snow White and he found that she was too lovely and he couldn't carve out her heart. So the evil queen then made a plan to give her a poison apple so that she'd die and then she'd be the fairest of them all. So then the evil queen falls off the cliff and Snow White is in a glass coffin, and then the prince saves her and they live happily ever after. So in the original story, the hunter is asked to carve out the lungs, heart and liver of Snow White. However, same sort of concept, he can't do it. He finds that she's way too lovely and he doesn't know why the evil queen wants to kill her. So instead he brings her the lungs, liver and heart of a boar. So the evil queen actually does eat these, thinking that they are Snow White's. I don't know if she thinks that will give her added beauty, but it's a bit messed up. And then obviously she finds out that Snow White is alive in the end, and she gives her an apple. So she gives the apple to Snow White and Snow White chokes on it. And so she is in a glass coffin, same sort of thing again. And then the prince saves her and they decide to get married. So they actually do invite the evil queen to the wedding, and this is for a grand bit of revenge. They actually make her wear hot iron shoes and force her to dance until she dies. So nice bit of revenge there, and I don't blame them. So the next one we've got is Cinderella. So in the Disney movie, Cinderella has a fairy godmother. She has the mice friends. Her glass slipper falls off when she's in a rush at midnight as she has to be home. The prince finds it and then he goes to the house. The stepsisters try it on but it doesn't fit, and then he finds Cinderella after she escapes from being locked in a room by her evil stepmother, and then they live happily ever after. So there's actually two alternate versions to Cinderella. So there is one from the 17th century that I found, and in this version her stepmother, her evil stepmother, is rooting around in a chest. However, it was unclear what she was rooting around for, and Cinderella actually slams the lid of the chest onto her evil stepmother's neck. So this snaps her neck, and the reason that Cinderella did this is because she would actually prefer her father to marry the housekeeper. So she kills her stepmother so that her father will marry the housekeeper. Now in the Brothers Grimm fairy tale, there is no fairy godmother. However, Cinderella did plant a tree by her mother's grave, and so she prays under it every single day. And she doesn't have mice friends, but she does have bird friends, so not too much different. And I think birds do actually help in the Disney movie as well. The dress for the ball actually appears underneath the tree. It's not made up by her fairy godmother. And so instead of losing the glass slipper when she is rushing home for midnight, the prince has actually put pitch on the steps, which is like tar, it makes you stick. And he's put that on because he wants her to stay and he wants her to stick to the stairs. However, the only thing that actually gets stuck is the glass slipper, which is how she loses it in the original fairy tale. So then obviously the same thing happens. The prince finds her slipper on the stairs and wants to go looking for her, so he explores the kingdom. Now when he gets to Cinderella's house, the stepsisters do try on the shoe first. However, one of them cuts off their heel of their foot, and another one cuts off her toes to try and make the shoe fit. Unfortunately, the shoe still doesn't fit them, and so he finds Cinderella, the slipper fits, and they get married. And they do invite the evil stepsisters to the wedding. However, again, this is for a bit of revenge. And the bird friends that have been helping throughout the story peck out the eyes of the evil stepsisters. The Little Mermaid. So the premise is the same. She wants to be human because she falls in love with a prince. So she goes to a sea witch who gives her legs. And then she has days to convince the prince to love her. She gets her voice stolen. by the sea witch. In the Disney version, the prince is hypnotised and believes that the woman saved him because of her voice, which is the voice of Ariel, as we all know. In the end, he realises that it's not her and it was Ariel all along, and she becomes human and they live happily ever after. Now, in the Hans Christian Andersen version, she still falls in love with her prince and she still goes to the sea witch and asks for legs, and she has to convince the prince to love her within a number of days. However, every time she takes a step on her brand new legs, it feels like she is walking on glass. And also, if she fails to convince the prince to love her, instead of turning back into a mermaid like in the Disney movie, she will die. So the prince marries another woman in the original story, believing that it was the person who saved him. And the Little Mermaid is heartbroken, and she obviously can't tell him any different because her voice has still been stolen by the sea witch. Then the sea witch tells her that if she can kill the prince, she doesn't have to die. She can turn back into a mermaid. However, the Little Mermaid can't bring herself to kill the prince, and so she throws herself into the sea and turns into sea foam. So she basically kills herself because she can't deal with the fact that he's married to someone else. So for Sleeping Beauty, in the Disney movie, she pricks her finger on a spinning wheel on her 16th birthday after being cursed by the evil fairy Maleficent. And so she is awakened by her true love's kiss, and this is after the prince defeats the evil fairy, who is a dragon, and then they get married and live happily ever after. So in the original version, it's similar. She pricks her finger on a spindle on the wheel. However, a king walks by the castle and knocks, and nobody answers. So he thinks this is strange, but he sees a ladder leading up to one of the towers. So he climbs the ladder into the castle and he sees Sleeping Beauty asleep on the bed. So he decides that he's going to rape her, and then he flees. So Sleeping Beauty actually awakens after she gives birth to twins. Now, weirdly, she doesn't actually wake up during childbirth, and I don't know how the twins came out without major surgery or whatever, but she gives birth to the twins, and then one of them is sucking on her finger and actually like sucks out the poison or the magic from the spindle. So then the king returns eventually and they fall in love. She loves him. She knows that he raped her, but she still loves him. But whatever, each to their own, I suppose. But the king is actually still married, and his wife plans to kill and cook his children and feed them to him. And also she wants to burn Sleeping Beauty on the stake. However, she is unsuccessful, and the princess and the king live happily ever after with their fucked up story. Tangled. So in the Disney version, she's obviously locked in a tower. Mother Gothel keeps her there. She's a real princess, and her magical tears heal Flynn Rider after he gets stabbed, and they get married and they live happily ever after. So in the original version, the prince finds Rapunzel's tower and Rapunzel lets him up with her hair, and then they do the dirty deed and she gets knocked up with twins. Again, don't know what it is about twins. And so the evil witch, Gothel, finds out that she has been impregnated, and so she cuts off Rapunzel's hair. However, she keeps the hair and kicks Rapunzel out into the wilderness. So then when the prince returns, he asks her to let down her hair, and Mother Gothel lets down Rapunzel's hair. He climbs the hair and finds the witch Gothel in the tower, and she tells him that Rapunzel's dead. So through his grief, he throws himself from the tower, and he actually lands in shrubbery underneath. He was planning to kill himself, but because of the thorns in the shrubbery, it actually causes him to become blind. So he stumbles around in the wilderness for a while, and he actually finds Rapunzel through her voice. She gets him to follow her voice, and he finds her. And then her magic tears heal his eyes so that he can now see, and they live happily ever after with their twins. So yeah, a bit of a weird one. I just wanted to give it a break. I thought it was still a bit creepy, so I thought it was suitable, but I also wanted to give a break in between the scary stuff. So that's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.